Hey there, I'm Maggie,
And I'm Kate.
and this is our show, Honestly Though, with Maggie and Kate.
You're listening to season 1, where we're having more of the honest conversations that you won't find in corporate American settings or among polite company.
Every Wednesday for the next 10 weeks, we'll talk openly about common experiences that affect people at work and in life, but aren't usually talked about in business as usual environments.
You won't find a highly polished show in season 1, but we can promise that you're getting the raw and honest perspective of two solopreneurs who outgrew the status quo and are committed to thriving in this next season.
And the most important part is we're not really interested in talking at you. We want to talk with you, so you can join the conversation in the comments or send us a conversation starter for a future episode, and you can find all the ways to get involved in the show notes.
All right, let's get to it. Okay, so we are talking about inner dialogues and inner critics this week. That should be fun.
Yeah, and we definitely want to preface you guys that we have a lot to say, but we don't want this to be longer than usual. So this is probably a topic we will circle back to more than once. So if we don't talk about something that you are like, oh, that's what I wanted to hear, it's coming, I'm sure, because we're trying to focus on just 3-ish dialogues that the two of us hear the most in our heads, but even saying that, that's 3 different dialogues. I don't think, what is that? That's too many things to talk about. So
Yeah,
we'll see.
this one's a big meaty outline here,
Right.
which
Big topic.
sounded gross, kind of. But anyways, okay, so
Let's
inner
dive right in.
dialogue. I guess let's think about inner dialogue in terms of how it changed both while we were in corporate and after corporate. I'm really interested and have been exploring in myself lately how much my inner dialogue has changed, especially since leaving corporate.
Yeah, I mean, kick it off. I feel like you're already in that headspace. I have to think a little.
Yeah. So I guess for me, like, I have found that the more that I write and the more that I think and the more that I talk to other people, the more my inner dialogue changes. And that has opened up something for me, especially over the last year, that I didn't really understand, which is that my inner dialogue and my inner critic doesn't just come from me. It also comes from everyone that I am in contact with, and it has been with me and been developing ever since I was like first able to talk and record memories. And so that has been really interesting because I feel like for a long time in my life, I thought of inner dialogue as just kind of like, I just didn't really think of it as like something that was that fluid, I guess, or something that I had as much control over as I actually do. And so that's been a really empowering thing to learn over this last year.
Yeah. No, I definitely relate with that. I feel like even when you first started talking and I was like, I need to think, panic, what am I going to say? I immediately went to like fixed versus growth mindset. And that's something that I learned about when I was younger, / when I was in college getting my psych degree and all that. But I never thought about it this is so ironic, but I never thought about it in terms of my actual mindset. Like I always thought about it in terms of like, I'm not a good drawer. I can't learn to draw. Like, I'm just not an artist. That type of thing where you kind of just decide you're bad at something and you never try to get better. But I always attached that to like a behavior, which I guess thinking is behavior. But I didn't, until just now listening to you, I hadn't really thought about it in terms of like same. I definitely felt like, well, this is the inner dialogue I was stuck with. Like, I was assigned at birth to hate myself, and that's just how it's been. And after leaving corporate too, I feel like I now have the space and like, I don't know. I definitely still have some inner judgment, but I feel like the judgment is coming down too because I'm not as worried and anxious all the time about that external like perception. Um, so yeah, I feel like in a way leaving corporate allowed me to shift into more of a growth mindset around my inner dialogue, where now I feel like I can change it. And if you would have talked to me even probably last year, I would have been like, maybe, I hope so, but I wouldn't have like known that it was possible.
Yeah. Yeah, I think it's really interesting too cuz like I know we're talking about inner critic and I'm bringing in inner dialogue and like not just the critical comments or whatever, but like even when I for the first 10 years of my career, I let other people tell me what I'm good at and what I should focus on and what I was meant to be doing and why, and the things that I'm not good at and the things that I am and the things that I need to develop. And like it came from like that's what managers do, or at least that's what managers did where I worked is they help you with your professional development. And for me, I can see when I look back at that like my professional identity was so tied to just my entire identity that it became really hard for me to not internalize what people said I'm good at and also what my opportunity areas were and which then fed into my inner critic. And so over the last year, it's really I don't have those voices anymore. I don't have a manager telling me like this is what you're really good at and this is what your the opportunity area is and this is what you're really bad at and you need to lock that up and you need whatever. Like now it it all comes from me except especially with the more critical things, they take longer to shed. Cuz I feel like the really critical things I like took to heart and like kept them. But also as I'm saying that, even the things that I'm really good at, like it took me a while to remember that writing is something that I could grow and develop and spend time with because I internalized and believed for so long that like no one wants to read long words and nobody cares about written content and you just need to do podcasts and videos all day and whatever. And I had to
The
like
irony.
reclaim yeah, the irony of all that. And I had to like reclaim it for myself. And so yeah, anyways.
No, I
So
mean,
you go ahead.
I'm curious if you don't sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off, but I'm curious if because obviously similarly, I was kinda just told what to do and what I was good at. Do you, looking back, see areas where kind of people were right? Where maybe it wasn't like, "Oh, you should go do this career, blah, blah, blah," but you can kinda see, like, underneath it all, everybody's been telling you you're a leader, or, like, underneath it all, everybody's been telling you you're good at this and you agree with that. Like, do you see any of those common denominators? Because I feel like I was thrown all over the place, but I can pick out, like, "Alright, they saw me as a leader." Like, things like that.
Yeah, so definitely. I too feel like I was thrown around. I've sat in sales roles, marketing roles, lots of different roles throughout my time in marketing. And it all circled around critical thinking and analytical skills. So actually like one of my I love this story, one of my first jobs right out of college. Um I got really into like budgeting and marketing analysis and helping understand like which campaigns were working and which ones weren't, because that is something I've always been really good at, flying above the whole picture, looking at everything and then connecting a bunch of dots. That is always something that I've been really, really good at. And that translates really well into numbers and marketing. And at the time, it was still back in the like Stone Ages where we were using Excel spreadsheets instead of AI to do all of our analysis. But um, I ended up my husband bought me a Excel Bible for Valentine's Day because I was like super into Excel that year and it was very romantic. And anyways, but so and I guess like that's just an example of like I was a words person. I was an English major, but I because people recognized this analytical ability, not just with words and being able to see and read between the lines, but also with numbers and to make sense of numbers and tell a story that we needed to tell. It helped me adapt and learn a bunch of new, different skills that I didn't come naturally to me and that I wasn't like immediately drawn to, but that really served me well for most of my career. It was always a huge asset in marketing to be able to dissect and understand the numbers and use them to tell a story.
Yeah,
Not everyone can do that.
very cool. And so, I guess to tie that back to, like, your inner dialogue, like, how does that I guess it sounds like that's stuck with you, like, in a
Yeah.
positive way.
Yeah. It really did. And it helped me think about like it gave me this impression that like I could do anything. Like that and I've been thinking about that a lot recently too because I've been studying like my Myers-Briggs personality for a couple fiction things I'm working on and it talks about like how INFPs like me tend to like think that they're like really good at lots of different things and like I do. Uh, like it like gave me this kind of like chameleon like effect of being able to be like, well, it doesn't matter. Critical thinking and analytical skills can be used in like a million applications. So whatever it is I want to do, I can do it. And so but there was also like, but then the inner critic comes in with that and imposter syndrome, which is like, but can I though? Like, I'm not really actually an expert in like statistics or like statistical analysis. And then it's like, well, anyone can make any number say any story that they want. And like, that's a thing I don't love about corporate. And so it's like, you know, um, does that make sense? It's kind of like
Yeah,
it's
no,
both.
it sounds like you fully believe that you can do the thing. It's just now believing that it's like, do you want to do the thing? And by being told that you're good at so many, like being so multifaceted is great and it keeps you entertained and well-rounded and like, a versatile human, but that's also kind of the other flip side, the curse of that is what do you choose to do? What do you stick to, if anything, or do you just bounce around all of your multifacetedness? And where is joy coming from really between all of that?
Yeah.
And it sounds like that's the part that the inner critic comes in and is like, well, you don't get joy. You just get to wonder and question. And even
Yeah.
if you're doing great things and on paper everybody's like, "Wow, Kate's great," and she's like, "Well," it's like your inner voice is like, "But is it enough? Is it good? Is
Yeah.
it like?"
A lot of times it feels shallow. It's like, well, but just because I can doesn't mean I have the depth in it. Or the things that I want to have depth in, I was told weren't really important. And that's not because anyone was being mean or whatever. It's like, it was true. Like video is taking off, podcasts are taking off. I think I just read this morning, like the average American reads at a sixth grade level. I, don't write to the sixth grade level. So like, there's like there's like truth in a lot of those things. But I really like as a solopreneur, I had to being able to be good at lots of different things makes it really hard to focus on the thing you want to do and the thing you want to do well and to give yourself permission and time to go deep on the thing that it is you want to do.
Yeah. Yeah, so it like, it holds you back essentially from doing that deeper piece of it.
Yeah. How about you?
Oh
How
my
tell me
gosh.
about your inner critic and how
Oh gosh.
how has that shaped what you do as a coach now, as well as as you were leaving corporate? Anything in there?
Yeah. I mean, I have been on a inner critic healing journey for quite some time. But I will like I kind of touched on the beginning, but leaving corporate finally gave me the space to like really feel like I'm capable of changing my inner dialogue a little bit. So I still feel like I'm very much in that messy middle. Like I'm a year and a half, I'll say, out of corporate. I spent a lot of that first year doing my coaching training and like still distracting myself with work, so to speak. Um, but I feel like if nothing else, I'm hyper aware. Like I am fully aware when my inner critic kicks in and I'm able to separate that voice a little bit more now where I'm aware of the thoughts. I know they are mine. I know it's like me, but I can kind of like sit down with it almost and like talk it down. And I've done a lot of work in therapy around it too. So I've done a lot of those like visualization exercises. I've done a lot of like I have a lot of tools for like working with it. Kind of befriending it is what we call it. And in one of some of my therapy is like you have to be friends with it because in the end your inner critic is trying to protect you. Like they have seen you be hurt before and they don't want you to be hurt again. And that's where all of it is. Even if it sounds really mean, it's coming from a loving place. Is like It's like that really toxic parent or grandparent or whoever in your life is like, just, "Hey, you look really fat in that." And it's like they mean well, but, like, you didn't need to fucking say that. Like, that's how I
Mhm,
kind of equate it. Um,
mhm.
and so leaving corporate, I just feel like I'm able to, like, recognize that it's not me. I feel like before, you're sitting in a meeting or whatever, and you say something, and it's just like your thoughts are racing, and I used to, like, go home after happy hours and sit there and, like, replay things in my head, like, "God, they're gonna think this now, they're gonna think that." Like, I couldn't, like, have a normal social interaction at work because I was so afraid of any kind of fallout, even though, like, I've this is a brag, but, like, I'm, like, a very, very goody two-shoes kinda person when it comes to things, like, in reality. Like, I'm a rule follower, I am polite, I am, like, smiley, I'll go out of my way to be, like, the mediator. So I don't know why I'd always go home and be like, "God, I did something wrong, everybody's gonna hate me." Like, there is no concrete evidence that was ever gonna happen, but the inner critic is, like, the people pleasing, especially for me, is, like, everyone else has to be happy before you. That's changing for me. I am very selfish now in a very good way. Like, I was just talking, like, I had a really good weekend. So I was telling Neil yesterday, I was like, I just love myself so much. And that's something I don't say out loud very often, but I was just having one of those days yesterday. I was like, wow, we crushed life. Like, we are killing it. And that's that wouldn't have been coming out of my mouth a year and a half ago when I was sitting at corporate. Like, I would have been like, we're doing our best. Like, it's just so different. Um, But yeah, I think just having the space is the biggest change for me, like, recognizing that it's not the truth also, like, it used to just be my thoughts were facts, and
Yeah,
that's
yeah.
not the case now.
Yeah. Listening to you talk just reminded me of something that I think is really, really, really important. My inner critic gets me in the most trouble when I'm interacting with people that I don't feel secure around.
Yeah.
So I'm pretty good at, and I've been good at this for a while of like, well, I mean, I don't know, but like
To your horn, you're good at it.
I'm decent at like talking to myself with kindness. But when I get into relationships, especially with people where there's like power, where the power dynamics are off, like where I am with authority figures, basically.
Yeah.
Um, my inner critic hears the word no or not right now and to be fair to me, a lot of the times the no's and not right nows that I get are actually more like maybes and like the very like non-committal indirect ways of saying no, but like I'm pretty sure they mean no. And when I get feedback like that, I automatically assume it's a me problem. They're
Yeah.
saying maybe or maybe later or whatever because they actually mean no, and they mean no because they think I'm stupid or because they think I'm bad or because they think I'm blah. And that is like wildly, I mean, sometimes I'm sure it's true. I'm not saying no one has ever thought that about me before, but I think that I have learned to recognize within myself that like a lot of times I am much harder on me than anyone else is, and I am the only one that is thinking about me as much as I'm thinking about me. And so, I have to be really, really careful in interactions with others that I don't take that I just take what they're saying at face value and stop trying to assign judgments about myself onto it, because then I end up overreacting, or hearing things that they didn't say and getting like really down on myself about it. And so that's something that I've been working on, especially over the last 6 months in therapy, is just really like, okay, I've got my inner critic on lock in conversations with myself, but when it comes to with others, I got to just like trust that people are either going to say what they need to say. No, just that they're going to say what they need to say when they need to say it. And if they never do, then they never do, but it's not my concern. My
Yeah.
inner critic doesn't need to fill in the blanks with whatever it thinks.
This is kind of a projecting question because I relate, but is it like by not getting the immediate yes, that means you weren't blank enough. You either weren't convincing enough or good enough or smart enough or, whatever it is. But like, it's because like listening to you, I'm like, yeah, no, a maybe is basically a no. Why didn't you just say yes? Like, that's
Yeah.
where my head goes. It's
Yeah.
like, okay, so I
Yeah.
suck because you didn't say yes. Like,
Yeah.
obviously. It has nothing to do with, even if I get the yes later, it's like, okay, so somebody else talked you into it because I didn't. Like, I suck. Like, I will not even take credit for the yes in the end if it wasn't immediate when I
Yeah.
needed it. That's
Yeah.
so I never even realized that about myself till I was listening to you, and I'm like, "No, same, because why didn't you just say yes?" Or, like, even with Neil, like, if I'm like, "Hey, do you wanna go see a movie?" And he's like, "Yeah, we could do that." Just say no. Like
Yeah.
like,
Yeah.
what do you
Like,
mean? "Yeah, we can do that, that's why I'm asking. Do you want to?" Like,
right. Yeah.
it's
Yeah.
those
It's
things
like,
that activate my inner critic too.
well, I always, and the word that triggers it for me is sure.
I was gonna say
Sure is
sure,
not
but
a, like, what do you do you yes or no? Sure is like I'm forcing you, like, I texted my dad right before this because I have to go to the
it's always in
DMV for
text, it's
this.
always in writing where
It's
it's like,
always
"So
in
you
text,
hate
always.
me?"
Yeah, and I was like, "Can I please, email you this? I can't connect to the printer, and I need to print these things for the DMV. Can I print them to you?" And he said, "Sure." And I'm like, "Am I
So you
am
don't
I
want to.
you don't wanna do it? Like, this is going to put you out? Like, you'd prefer to go take a nap on your line? What is the problem?" And then I'm like, "No, he just this is just how I think it's just how boomers talk. I think they just use
But
the word
Neil
'sure.'"
does it too, and he's not a boomer. And I've even told him, I'm like, "If you even just include an exclamation point, so it's like, 'Sure!' Like, that's a yes. When you just say
Yeah.
'sure,' it's like
Mhm.
you're saying you don't want to, but you will, and that means I'm
Yeah.
forcing you, and that means
Yeah.
I don't wanna do it anymore." Like, ugh.
Yeah.
I'm trying to
That
think
is
of
our
my
inner
coaching
critic
too because I
speaking,
know
though.
it
That is
comes
like,
up.
it's not real. None of that is real. It's fake. It's not real.
Yeah. It's all in my head. It's like, in
Yeah.
reality, he is just saying yes.
Yeah. They
And,
just
like,
like,
and to be honest, he is communicating that, like, he would honestly rather not, but he's willing to. Like, sometimes he is meaning to get that across. Like, I'm like, "Hey, we should go to the grocery store, like, do you wanna go?" And he's like, "Sure." It's like, of course we don't wanna go, but it's like, can you not make it feel like I'm the chore?
yeah, and why does it feel like, and that's an inner critic thing too, like,
Yeah,
it's
no, it's not
actually
him. That phrase wrong. It's me
it's
thinking I am now a chore.
well, but even me, like, I mean, when I was saying, like, don't say the word sure because, like, you mean, yeah, well, maybe they don't mean yes. Maybe they do mean, like, I really don't want to print a thing for you, but I will. And why
Yeah.
is that mean? And why is that bad? Like, why is that negative? Why does that mean I'm an inconvenience or I'm putting you out or I'm whatever? It just means they want to be helpful. And
Yeah.
that's nice.
That's a good
Um,
reframe. It's not that I'm inconveniencing them. I'm giving them an opportunity to be helpful, and they are taking me
yeah.
up on that opportunity.
Huh. Yeah.
Easier said than done.
Yeah. Totally.
But that is, like, going back to, like, having space to, like, combat the inner critic, that's kinda what I do now, is I sit down, I'm like, "Okay, but wait, why do I feel that way? Where did that thought come from?
Mhm.
What's the alternative?" Like,
Yeah.
I was on a big kick last year about, like, the inner cheerleader and how that's, like, your best combat, like, you need to have them go at it. You step out of
Mhm.
it and just let them fight, but try to,
Mhm.
like, what you just did, like, "Okay, but what would your inner cheerleader say about that 'sure'?" It
Yeah.
would say, "Look at this person so willing to help you," and like, it's just a
Yeah.
complete
Huh.
opposite, but
And
again,
how much
easier said than
kinder it
done.
is to the other person too. Like, this is the problem that I've run into with inner critics too, is that it's that my inner critic isn't just like rude to me. My inner critic also assumes the worst of other people sometimes. And that gets me into trouble. And I don't assume the worst of people. At least I don't think I do. It's like it's just an insecurity. But that brings me to this Taylor Swift quote that I wrote down where we were talking. When you talk about, like, well, where does that come from? There is a lyric here. I wrote it down. Maybe it's the past that's talking, screaming from the crypt, telling you to punish you for things you never did. And I think that speaks to me around inner critic. Like, for me,
Yeah.
it always comes back from, and I've seen this play out so many times over the last year where someone I'm not that close with, who doesn't know like all the ins and outs of where I've been, will like offer me advice that is like a social norm. I tend to like, I don't love social norms. Most of them I think are really bad and that we should stop doing them. But anyways, so like I get a piece of advice that's a social norm from someone who's generally like, they just want to help, like for real. But it sounds like the advice or in some cases, direction from former managers that I've gotten in the past that really did not serve me in that moment. And sometimes when I hear people offering advice that rhymes with something that really did a disservice to me in the past, my gut instinct is to just like totally shut them down, like
Yeah.
punish them for like, they did not mean it like that. They did not have all of the context. They literally are just trying to help. And it's actually good sound advice, in most scenarios, maybe. But this inner critic comes in and it doesn't just, it comes from an insecurity about me, but it also lashes out at other people because of things I've learned in the past. So,
Yeah. You saying that reminds me of a very recent LinkedIn post that I shared where I basically was like scrolling through threads one day and I saw somebody was like gonna quit their job, and I get a lot of those because that's like my algorithm. and and in the comments somebody was like, they say it's better to quit your job when you already have one lined up. And I naturally took that a little like you're saying, like my inner critic got a little defensive and was like, yeah, that is sound advice most of the time, but I am on this crusade right now of trying to convince people that you could be in this other group or this other bucket where you actually could quit. It's just fear. It literally is just fear. When you look at your bank account, you could. You're just scared. And that was so I kinda got in, like, this little argument with this person on Threads, and then after going back and forth, like, 1 or 2 times, I was like, "Let me not argue on Threads, let me just go make a LinkedIn post about it and just share it," because that's, like, inspo comes from all places. And same on LinkedIn, somebody clearly took it a little, like, personal and kinda, like, we got in a that was my first, like, spat on LinkedIn, and it wasn't bad or anything, like, we were very respectful, but it was, like, the first time that I felt, like, really defensive on LinkedIn because I've told you in the past, I stay away from fighting on LinkedIn. I have other platforms for that where I get out my my internet anger. LinkedIn, I try to keep a little more happy, but I felt very defensive around this advice because it is so common. It is such a norm. It is such a like it's even when I quit my job, I didn't tell my family at first because I knew they were gonna judge me. And the only reason it came out at my cousin's wedding is because my grandma was like, "By the way, I have this education fund," and I was like, "Oh, we want to pay for my coaching?" Like, that's awesome. Like, I didn't, I guess I'll tell you that I'm doing this because I wasn't going to mention it to anyone until I like succeeded. Because also the inner critic was like, don't let them see you failing. Um, me, I don't know. So all of that came out, but it was just like,
yeah.
yeah.
Yeah, I really, it all super resonates, and I love what you talked about with the inner cheerleader, and I love that you've spent so much time focusing on that over the past year, and it obviously makes sense with the work that you do, but I think that I've never even thought of having an inner cheerleader before, but I know the importance of it, just from all of the experiences that I've had letting my inner critic take the lead role and the star role in my inner dialogue, and just knowing that like that's not, it doesn't serve me, it doesn't serve anyone else, it's not helpful. So what tips do you have for us around developing your inner cheerleader? How did you do that?
Gosh. Well, without sounding like a crazy person with a million voices in my head, it does help me to kind of like literally visualize and separate out like different versions. Kind of like the movie In and Out, right? Like we have all these different like characters in our head that represent these different narratives. I've kind of just adapted that into my thinking process. So it's not always in the moment too. What I feel like I've worked on a lot over the years is like first you have to start to recognize that it's happening, and normally that means after the fact. Like you're going to have a moment, you're going to have it blah blah blah, go through it, and then hours later, days later you're going to think back and be like, "Oh, my inner critic was doing this thing when that happened." That takes a long time. Slowly you start to recognize it closer and closer to it. Eventually you'll recognize it while it's happening. Even that for me was, like, the worst part is, like, when I could tell my inner critic was kicking in, but I still didn't know what to do. It's just, like, so aware, and that's why I always say people are like, "You're so self-aware." I'm like, "Yeah, and I hate it." Like, being self-aware is such a curse sometimes because I've known for years what's wrong with me. That doesn't that's only one piece of it is knowing. Then you're just aware. So that was, like, I'd say that took me years to get to the point where I could even recognize that it was kicking in the moment. Well, for anyone listening, give yourself a lot of time and grace. It is not easy. And as we just mentioned, there's all these different dialogues. So, like, even still sometimes I notice it after the fact because it's not the dialogue I'd been focusing on. So there's a lot. It also helps to work with, a coach or a therapist or, like, somebody else depending on what level of, like, where it stems from. Um Journaling a lot about it, all that. But as far as the actual inner cheerleader part goes, I feel like that's just a fun way to say reframe. Like, you just need to reframe those thoughts, and that doesn't mean you're lying to yourself either. It's just like your inner critic is lying to you. So kind of recognizing their embellishment, I'll call it. They're not lying, they're embellishing to try to protect you from taking a risk that could hurt you. Even if it's on a small scale, like, releasing this podcast, my inner critic is like, "Everyone's gonna hate you once this is out, good luck, like, this is the end of your of your life," even though that's like, who cares? It's not true, but that's where my head goes, is like, this is scary to do, so what I try to reframe is like, for all the people we're gonna scare away, we're also going to attract new people, and we're gonna make new friends, we're gonna get closer, like, trying to focus on the benefits, not because the inner critic is fully wrong. They're just really exaggerating, and for the most part, I mean, sometimes they're true, like you said earlier. There are times where they're just keeping you in check and it is true,
Totally.
but they're
Yes.
normally a little dramatic about it. And that's where
Mhm.
the inner
Yeah.
cheerleader is nice
Yeah.
because it's kind of like you can sit down at a table and there's two of them and they fight and you can see better how you're not either one. There's a
Mhm.
happy medium. My dad
Mhm.
used to always say the truth is somewhere in the middle, right? There's two sides to every story. The truth's in the middle. It's no one is correct.
Yeah.
So
Totally.
same with the voices in your head, not to sound like a crazy person, but
Yeah. No, you're all good. So a couple things I wanna, like, underline there, and then we'll sign off for today, and we're gonna have to pick this conversation up again because there's just,
100%.
like, so much on this. We didn't even start talking about, like, pedestals and other people's perceptions and how that weighs into all this, which I think is, like, the most
And, like,
interesting from my
actual
perspective.
stories. I feel like we have, like, legitimate stories from corporate that just never got told because 'cause we're, like, not rushing, but like we said, we just have so much to say.
Just theorizing, just a
Alright,
lot of theories,
wrap
but
her up.
so
Tie to her
a few
bow.
fine points. First of all, you said you and I are gonna get closer, and that made me smile. I like that. Okay, and then also, what was the other one? It was a little bit more serious. Oh, I also wanted to like draw an underline around like give yourself time. Like so I am only able to see my inner critic and how it has affected me, but also how it's affected my relationships with other people because I had a lot of practice getting it wrong. I didn't see it in the moment. I didn't like n- I am only able to look back and reflect and see it.
Yeah,
And it took a lot of repetition to get there. So, and when I say I got it wrong, like getting it wrong is how you grow too.
yeah,
So, to your point about giving yourself a lot of patience, a lot of grace, that is so needed. And it's just really beautiful that people are even thinking about and considering wanting to get to know their inner critic and want to develop their inner cheerleader. Like that part, wanting to do that work is so important. And at least for me has been really meaningful. So,
yeah, and,
yeah,
like, emphasizing time, like, I first started working on this with a therapist in 2020, and I've been in and out of therapy since then, so it hasn't been, like, 6 consecutive years or anything,
yeah,
but
yeah,
I'm
yeah.
about 6 years into even recognizing that my inner critic exists on the level of beyond just like, "Yeah, we all have that, blah, blah, blah," like,
Mhm. Yeah,
years, and
yeah.
I'm still not like, I still sometimes think back and I'm like, "Oh, that happened," like, so I don't think it's a very good example of progress not being linear, right? Healing is not linear. You will go up and down. You will notice the progress, but also the light at the end of the tunnel keeps getting farther the more you go because there's just more and more darkness to uncover on the way. So,
I love that we've both been on this path since around 2020. We should do an episode on that too.
how
Like
COVID kicked
COVID.
us into gear.
Yeah, that sounds super fun. COVID, awesome.
Thanks
Okay.
for listening to Honestly Though with Maggie and Kate. We're being so honest about the fact that we really want you to join the conversation.
Drop us a comment, email us a question, or submit a conversation starter for a future episode. You can find out how down in the show notes. See you next week.